Kale walked through the silent spaceport. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor, but no one dared to speak. Everyone looked at him, but no one said anything. He had just returned from the most dangerous mission ever sent by the human Alliance. His team of 12 brave soldiers had not returned with him. Only Kale survived. His face showed no pain, no fear, no sadness. His eyes were cold, empty, and unreadable. Aliens from many planets watched him from a distance. They didn't know the full story, but they knew something terrible had happened. Some whispered to each other in fear. One alien, small and with bright green eyes, whispered to her father, "That's the human who never cries." It was true. Kale had fought in over 20 battles. He had seen worlds burn, friends die, and enemies scream in pain. But he had never cried, not once, not even when his family was killed in a surprise attack 5 years ago. People started calling him the silent human. But what many didn't know was that aliens feared something more than human weapons. They feared human emotions, especially sadness. Long ago, a legend started spreading across the stars. If a human ever cried, the universe would start counting its days. No one knew where the story came from. Some said it was from an ancient alien book. Others believed it came from a dying god. But over time, the fear grew. And now, all eyes were on Kale. He passed through the spaceport's main hallway, where a group of alien children were standing. One little girl looked up at him, her big eyes full of curiosity. She tugged on her mother's arm and said, "He's going to cry." Her voice was soft, but it was like a knife through the crowd. Everyone turned to stare. Kale didn't stop walking. He didn't react. But deep inside, something had changed. Behind him, the air was heavy. No one moved until he was gone. The child's mother pulled her close and whispered, "Never say that again. Not about a human." Kale reached the shuttle bay, where a high-ranking officer waited. The officer looked nervous. "Captain Kale, we're sorry for your loss." Kale didn't reply. He just gave a short nod and stepped onto the shuttle. The shuttle flew him to a private space station. It was quiet and empty, built for rest and healing. But Kale didn't rest. He stood in front of a small table, staring at 12 metal tags. Each tag had the name of one of his lost team members. He picked one up. It belonged to Captain Rhea, his second in command. She had once told him, "Even if we die, don't forget us. Don't shut down." Her voice echoed in his mind. He put the tag down slowly and sat in the dark. No tears came. His face was still cold, still silent. Far away, on a planet made of crystals, an old alien priest felt a tremor in the ground. He opened his glowing eyes and said, "It has begun." The other priests around him stared in fear. One of them asked, "What has begun, Elder?" The priest whispered, "The countdown. A human's heart has cracked. The tear is near." Back on the station, Kale received a private message. It was an old video sent by his team before the mission. In the video, they were laughing, joking, sharing stories. Captain Rhea spoke to the camera. "Kale, if you're watching this, it means we didn't make it. But that's okay. We knew the risk. What we didn't want is for you to go cold again. You feel more than anyone, even if you hide it. It's okay to cry." Kale stared at the screen. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe for a moment. His hand slowly touched the screen, but still no tear. Suddenly, alarms rang on the station. A strange energy wave passed through the system. Machines deep under alien planets turned on after thousands of years. Stars far away flickered and dimmed for a second. An ancient AI buried under the surface of a moon began to count. No one had turned it on. No one had touched it in centuries. But its voice said, "Countdown initiated. 7 days remain." Leaders across the galaxy were alerted. Alien governments called emergency meetings. Some screamed, "It's starting! The prophecy is real." Others denied it. "It's just a glitch." But deep down, they all felt the fear. One alien general said, "Find the human named Kale. Watch him. Do not let him cry." On his dark station, Kale sat alone. The stars outside seemed colder now. He closed his eyes, not to sleep, but to remember. He saw the faces of his team, their laughter, their courage, and something deep inside his chest moved. Just a little. He whispered to the empty room, "I'm still here. I didn't break." But even he didn't believe his own words. The universe was holding its breath, because for the first time in history, a human was close to crying, and everyone knew, if that tear fell, nothing would ever be the same again. Kale stood in the dark control room of the station. Screens around him showed reports from the last mission. He stared at them, but his mind was somewhere else. He could still hear the screams of his team, still feel the heat of the explosion, still remember the cold silence after the last message. The mission was supposed to be simple: find and destroy a hidden weapon deep in the Kuros Nebula. The weapon was said to be made from dark energy, something not even humans fully understood. Many believed it was a myth, a story told to scare soldiers. But Kale and his team had found it, and it had destroyed them. The ship had landed on a dead planet. Inside the nebula, everything was quiet. Too quiet. The ground was black and cold. The air smelled of metal and ash. Then the weapon appeared, not with a sound, but with a feeling. It didn't fire bullets or beams. It used emotions: fear, regret, grief. One by one, his teammates fell. Not from wounds, but from memories. They saw people they had lost, mistakes they had made, things they had buried deep inside their minds. And then they stopped fighting. Kale had felt it too. The weapon tried to touch his mind, tried to show him the face of his younger brother who died in the war years ago. But Kale had locked his heart long ago. He felt nothing. That's what saved him. He planted the explosives, destroyed the weapon, and ran back alone. Now, in the control room, Kale replayed the final message again. Ria's voice spoke to him, soft and strong. "Kale, don't let this mission kill you too. You survived because you stopped feeling. But that's not living. Don't become empty." The video ended, and silence returned. A light blinked on the control panel, a message from Earth. It was marked urgent. He opened it. "Captain Kale, an AI system on Moon 9 has activated on its own. It has started a universal countdown. 7 days, no known cause, but some alien groups say it's linked to the human prophecy, the one about a tear." Kale's jaw tightened. He knew that story. Everyone did. It was told in whispers. They said that if a human cried with true emotion, something ancient would awaken, something that could end time. At first, humans laughed at the idea, but the older alien races didn't. They believed it, feared it, prepared for it. Now the countdown had started. Across the galaxy, meetings were taking place. Alien leaders gathered in underground rooms, hidden chambers, deep bunkers. Some wanted to send ships to protect Kale. Others wanted to kill him before he cried. All agreed on one thing: he was the center of something much bigger. On the planet, Jara, a glowing alien priest named Vurak, spoke to his council. "I have seen the vision. The tear is near. If it falls, the universe will change. Either we are reborn, or we fall into endless dark." One warrior stood up. "Then we must stop the human. Silence him before it's too late." Vurak shook his head. "If we kill him, the tear may fall faster. You cannot stop emotion with violence." Back on the station, Kale walked through the hallway, past rooms that used to hold laughter and life. Now they were empty. He stopped in front of A small room filled with personal boxes. One belonged to Private Juno, the youngest of his team. She had kept a small toy from her childhood, a tiny robot. It still blinked, waiting for someone to play with it. Cale picked it up and held it for a long time. No one was watching. But still, he didn't cry. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The AI voice spoke. Unknown energy detected. Incoming vessel. Approaching. Cale ran to the observation deck. A small ship was heading toward him. No weapons. No danger. But it held someone unexpected. The alien child from the spaceport. The one who said, "He's going to cry." The ship docked. The door opened. The child stepped out with a calm face. Cale stared at her. "Why are you here?" he asked. She smiled. "To watch." "Watch what?" The moment the tear falls. Cale didn't move. His heart started to beat faster. "Who are you?" "I'm a watcher," she said softly. "I was born to witness the beginning, or the end." Cale didn't believe in old stories, but something about her felt real, strong, powerful. "Then you've come to the wrong place," he said. Don't cry." She looked into his eyes. "Not yet, but your heart is heavy, and time is short." Behind her, in space, stars began to flicker again. Far away, the AI on Moon 9 repeated the message. Countdown. 6 days remain. Cale stared at the stars. He didn't understand what was happening, but he knew one thing. Something had started, and it couldn't be stopped. Cale sat across from the strange alien child in the quiet room. The station was dark, except for the soft blue lights blinking from the walls. Outside the window, the stars were moving slowly, but inside Cale's mind, everything felt too fast. He looked at the girl. Her eyes were not like normal eyes. They glowed faintly, and when she blinked, time seemed to pause. She still had not told him her name. She only said she was a watcher, born to witness the moment when everything would change. Cale didn't trust her, but he also didn't feel afraid of her. She was too calm, too quiet, and something inside him whispered that she was not lying. "You said I will cry," Cale said finally. The child nodded. "Yes." He shook his head. "That won't happen. I haven't cried in 20 years. "That is why the universe is scared," she replied. Cale frowned. "Scared of me?" "Not just you," she said. "Scared of what happens when someone like you finally feels again." Cale leaned back, his arms crossed. "And what happens then?" She looked toward the stars. "Time resets, or it ends." Cale stood up and walked around the room. His boots echoed on the metal floor. He had survived battles, lost friends, even seen whole planets die. But now a child told him the future of everything depended on his emotions. He wanted to laugh, but he didn't. He just felt tired. The child watched him closely. "Why did you stop feeling?" she asked. He didn't answer. "Was it the war?" Still, he said nothing. "Was it your brother?" Cale froze. He turned to her, eyes hard. "Don't talk about him." The girl blinked slowly. "He was all you had left. You were only 15. You promised to protect him. But the bomb—" "I said don't talk about him." Cale's voice echoed in the room. Silence followed. Cale's chest rose and fell. His hands shook. Not from anger, but from something else. Something older. Something he had buried deep. "I buried that pain," he whispered. "Long ago." The girl stood now, her small feet making no sound. "Pain doesn't stay buried forever, Cale. It waits." Suddenly, the alarm buzzed. Red lights flashed across the control panels. A robotic voice shouted, "Incoming ships detected. Unknown ID. High-speed approach." Cale ran to the control screen. The display showed 5 alien ships. No reply to hails, no peace signal. They were coming fast. He turned to the girl. Did you bring them? She shook her head. They're here to stop the tear. Cale grabbed his gear. Blaster, armor, helmet. Even if he didn't believe the prophecy, these ships were a real threat. He rushed to the docking bay. The girl followed him quietly. They think killing you will stop the countdown. And will it? He asked, loading his weapon. She looked up at him with sad eyes. I don't know. It has never happened before. As the ships neared, Cale activated the station shields. A deep hum filled the air. Outside, space lit up as plasma bolts hit the shield wall. The whole station shook. Cale moved quickly, pressing buttons, rerouting power. He had trained for this. He had fought enemies before. But this time felt different. This wasn't war. It was fear. The aliens were afraid of a man's heart breaking, afraid of a tear. Outside, the enemy began to dock. 3 metal claws extended and locked onto the station. A loud bang echoed through the walls. They're coming in, Cale muttered. The door in front of him hissed. Slowly, it opened. Cale raised his weapon, but paused. It wasn't soldiers who walked through, it was priests. 5 tall, glowing figures in black robes, their faces hidden. They walked slowly, calmly. No weapons, only symbols in their hands, strange, burning marks that floated in the air. One priest stepped forward and spoke in a soft voice. Human, we do not come to kill. We come to ask. Cale didn't lower his weapon. Ask what? To delay the tear, to hold back your heart. Cale frowned. You think I can control that? The priest nodded. You must. If you cry, the world resets. Why would it reset? The priest looked around, as if the answer was written on the station walls. Because the universe is not built to hold human pain. Your kind creates hope and sorrow too deeply. It leaves a scar on reality. Cale looked at the child. She said nothing, only watched. I'm not your enemy, Cale said, but I can't promise what I'll feel. Then we must stay, the priest said, and pray your heart stays. Frozen. Cale lowered his weapon. Fine, but if any of you try anything, we won't, said the priest. We fear your tear more than death. The priests took seats in the cold hallway and began to chant softly. Their voices were deep and slow, like wind through ancient caves. Cale left them and returned to the control room. The child followed. 6 days left, the AI voice said again. Cale stared at the screen, hands shaking now. Something was changing inside him. He didn't want it, but he couldn't stop it. The girl whispered, The universe is holding its breath. And far away, stars began to blink faster. The station grew quieter with every hour. Even the machines seemed to hum softer, as if they too were waiting for something to happen. Cale sat alone in the dark control room, his hand resting on the cold metal panel. He hadn't slept in 2 days. He didn't feel tired, just heavy. The priests were still outside, sitting cross-legged in the hallway. They didn't eat. They didn't move. They just chanted, their deep voices echoing like a heartbeat through the empty station. Cale watched the screen. The countdown was still ticking. 5 days left. He didn't know what scared him more, the time running out, or what would happen when it did. The girl walked in again. Always silent, always calm. She never blinked unless he looked away. You're not human, are you? He asked. She shook her head. No, but I was made to look like one, so you would listen. Cale gave a weak smile. You think I'll trust you just because you look like a child? No, she replied. But you trusted a brother once, and he looked like me. Cale's heart jumped. The air felt colder. Don't talk about him, he said again. But the memories were already coming. His brother's laugh, his small hand holding Cale's after their parents died. The way he smiled, even on the day they boarded the refugee ship. the day before the bomb. The girl stood near him now. "You promised to protect him." "I couldn't," Cale whispered. "You blamed yourself." He looked away. "I still do." Suddenly, the lights in the station flickered. The screen turned red. "Warning," the AI voice said. "Time disruption detected. Source external." Cale stood up. "Disruption? From where?" Before the AI could answer, a bright flash lit up the room. A second later, a shape appeared in the air, glowing like lightning trapped inside a body. A figure stepped out. It was Cale, or something that looked like him, older, angrier, scarred, wearing black armor and carrying a strange energy blade. The real Cale raised his weapon. "What is this?" The older version smiled darkly. "I'm you, from a future where you cried, where everything broke." The child stepped forward. "You shouldn't be here." The future Cale looked at her with cold eyes. "And yet here I am, because he needs to see what happens if he breaks." Cale stared at his future self. "What do you want?" "To stop you," the older version said. "If I can keep you from crying, maybe we save what's left." "I thought the priests were here to stop the tear," Cale said. "Now you too?" The older him walked closer. "They're afraid of what happens after. I lived it. I saw Earth return and then vanish. I watched stars fall like rain, whole systems gone in seconds, because one tear carried all the pain of 1,000 years. Cale swallowed hard. "But I'm just one man." "You were the first human in centuries to feel everything at once," future Cale said. "You were the crack in the wall. And after you, others followed." The child stepped between them. "This is not your place. Your time is over." The older Cale glared at her. "You think prophecy will save him? He deserves to choose." Then he turned to Cale. "So choose. Hold your pain, or doom the stars." The room grew silent again. Cale's hands were shaking. His chest was tight. It was like standing at the edge of a cliff, and the wind was pushing him forward. He remembered his brother's voice. So small. So trusting. "You'll protect me, right?" Cale had said yes, but he had lied. He felt something warm in his eyes. His heart beat faster. "No," he whispered. "Not yet." The future version of him slowly vanished, like smoke pulled into the air. The child stepped close. "You delayed it." "For now," Cale replied, "but I can feel it. It's coming." She nodded. "That is why we must prepare." Outside the station, strange changes had begun. The stars near the edge of the galaxy were flickering, blinking in and out. Time was no longer stable. On planet after planet, machines broke down. Water froze in midair. Some species felt a great pressure in their chests, like the universe was about to scream. All of it, because one human was about to cry. Back on the station, Cale sat down again. He looked at the countdown. 4 days left. He wiped his face and stared at the stars. "I'm not ready," he said. "No one ever is," said the child. And then the lights flickered again. Someone else was coming. Cale sat in the dark, staring at the glowing screen. Only 4 days left. His hands felt heavy. His heart even heavier. He didn't know how to stop what was coming. He wasn't even sure he wanted to. The girl stood near the control panel, watching him quietly. She had not blinked once in the last hour. "You said someone is coming," Cale finally spoke. His voice was tired but curious. "Who?" She didn't answer. Then, without warning, the lights flickered. A cold wind blew through the station, even though the air system was shut. The metal walls shook, and a deep sound, like thunder from the void, echoed through every corridor. Something stepped through the gate. It was tall, too tall. Thin like a shadow, its skin silver and smooth like flowing water. Its eyes had no color, just two empty holes filled with starlight. Kale stood up fast and pointed his weapon. "Don't shoot," the girl said. "It's not here to kill you. Not yet." The creature moved closer, its steps silent. When it spoke, its voice came from all directions, like 1,000 whispers at once. "You are the one they call Kale," it said. "The first tier." Kale narrowed his eyes. "You know about me?" The being nodded. "The universe knows. Every dying planet, every broken timeline, every lost god. They wait. For your tear." Kale felt a chill run down his spine. The creature raised one long hand and touched the wall. A ripple of light spread across it. Suddenly, Kale saw images. Worlds burning, stars collapsing, oceans turning into fire. Then he saw something else. Himself, on his knees, crying. And as his tears hit the floor, the universe cracked like glass. "No," Kale whispered. "It can't be true. One human can't break everything." The creature lowered its hand. "It is not the tear. It is the truth inside it. You carry the final sorrow of mankind. You carry the forgotten grief." Kale stepped back. "Then take it. Take the pain and go." The creature shook its head. "It is yours. And if you let it fall, the end begins." The girl stepped between them again. "You've shown him enough." The creature looked at her. "You are the guardian, but you cannot stop time. His heart is already cracking." Kale fell back into the chair. "Why me?" the girl answered softly. "Because you're the last one who remembers how to feel." Kale thought about that. He remembered how people used to be, before the wars, before the silence. They laughed. They cried. They hugged each other. But now, everyone just survived. He didn't want to be the last. He didn't want this weight, but he had no choice. The creature slowly faded into the shadows, leaving behind only cold air and silence. The countdown continued. 3 days, 23 hours. Kale looked at the girl. "I can't stop it, can I?" She walked over and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "No. But you can choose what the tear means." He didn't understand. Not yet. Later that night, Kale walked through the empty halls. The station felt different now. Almost alive. He passed the chanting priests. Some had fainted, others cried, softly. They had seen something too. Maybe the same visions he saw. He entered the memory room. A small chamber with only one thing. A memory cube. It glowed blue. Kale sat in front of it and placed his hand on the panel. It lit up. A voice played. It was his brother's voice, laughing, then singing a silly song they made up together. Kale closed his eyes. A single tear rolled down his cheek, but stopped at his chin. The cube played another clip. His brother, scared, holding Kale's hand during a bombing. "Will we be okay?" Kale had said yes, but they weren't. His brother died the next day. Kale bit his lip. His chest hurt. It felt like something was breaking inside him. Then he heard another voice. This time, not a memory. The girl stood at the doorway. "You don't have to carry it alone." Kale shook his head. "But no one else feels it. They all forgot." She walked in and sat beside him. "That's why it hurts more. Because you remember everything." Kale looked at the cube, his face reflected in the blue light. He looked older now, not in age, but in pain. "I'm scared," he said. "Good," she replied. "Only those who feel fear can choose hope." The countdown blinked again. 3 days left. Far away, stars flickered again. Something ancient had awakened, and it was watching. The stars were changing. One by one, they blinked and disappeared. Some were dying, some were hiding. Even the stars were afraid. Cale didn't sleep. He couldn't. The girl stood beside him in the control room watching the countdown. 2 days and a few hours remained. Something had changed inside Cale. He no longer felt just empty. Now he felt pressure, like a storm was building inside his chest, but he didn't know how to let it out. "Why are they waiting?" Cale asked. "Why not end everything now?" the girl answered slowly. "Because they still hope you will break, and when you do, the final door will open." "What door?" She looked at him, her voice calm but cold. "The door to everything and nothing." Cale didn't ask again. Suddenly, alarms rang out through the station. Red lights flashed. The walls trembled. A voice echoed, "Unidentified life forms approaching." Cale ran to the main screen. Thousands of ships, dark, sharp, and silent. They floated outside the edge of the station like shadows in space. No signal, no sound. He turned to the girl. "What are they?" She stared at the screen. "Hunters." "For me?" She nodded. "They want to stop your tear, or collect it when it falls." Cale's jaw clenched. "They can try." He grabbed his weapon and ran to the outer defense controls. The priests followed him, their faces pale but ready. They knew this was more than a battle. It was a test of time itself. As the first ship moved closer, the sky turned black. The eye. Stars behind it faded, swallowed by its size. The ship fired a single shot, a beam of white energy that tore through metal like paper. Cale hit the defense button. Cannons fired back, but it was like throwing stones at a mountain. "They're too strong!" one of the soldiers shouted. Cale shouted back, "We're not trying to win! We're trying to hold!" Explosions shook the station. Smoke filled the corridors. Screams echoed and fires spread. Cale fought with all he had. His hands bled. His body burned. But he kept going. The girl stayed near him. She didn't fight. She didn't run. She just watched. "Why aren't you helping?" Cale asked, panting. "I can't stop them," she said softly. "But I can stop you if you lose yourself." Cale stared at her, confused. "What do you mean?" She didn't answer. A second ship fired. The station cracked. Part of it broke away and floated into space. Cale saw bodies spinning into the black, their faces frozen in fear. Something snapped inside him. He ran to the memory room again. The cube was still glowing. He touched it. New memories played. His mother smiling, his father reading to him, his friends laughing under a tree. Then came the memory he feared most, his brother's last breath. "Don't cry." His brother had whispered, "Not for me." Cale fell to his knees. Tears welled up in his eyes, but still they did not fall. The girl stood in the doorway again. "You're close." He looked up at her. "Why does one tear matter so much?" "Because it's not just yours. It holds the sadness of your kind. A sadness buried for centuries." Cale stood up, shaking. "Then maybe it's time." The girl's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" He nodded. Cale walked to the highest point of the station. The battle still raged below. Fires burned. Screams rang out. He looked into space. The hunters paused. Even they could feel it. The sky grew silent. Then Cale whispered to himself, "I miss you. One tear. Only one." It rolled down his cheek and fell. The tear hit the metal floor. The universe blinked. All ships outside stopped moving. Time paused. Everything turned white, then dark, then nothing, and in that nothing, something began. Cale stood in the silence, his tear still shining on, the floor like a star. The girl walked beside him. "You did it," she said. Cale looked at her. "What now?" She smiled for the first time. "Now they come." From the darkness, shapes appeared. Not enemies, not gods, people, humans. From lost times, broken places, hidden corners of the universe. One by one, they stepped forward, following the light of his tear. They had also forgotten how to cry. But now, they remembered. The girl turned to Kale. You broke the curse, not by power, but by feeling. Kale looked at the tear again. It glowed like a sun, and somewhere far beyond, the stars began to shine again. The countdown stopped. One day left. But now, everything had changed. The hunters turned away. The universe, once broken, took a breath. But something else had also awakened. Something that did not want hope to rise again. It was coming, and it would not stop for tears. The tear still shone on the metal floor. It had not dried. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat, like it was alive. Kale stood beside it, staring. Around him, the station was quiet now. No alarms, no explosions, just silence. But this silence was not peace, it was a warning. The girl stood beside him. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed something new, fear. They stopped the countdown, Kale said. Yes, the girl replied. Because you changed something. Kale looked around. People were coming back. Humans who had been lost in time, broken, forgotten, trapped. Now they were walking toward him, toward the light of that one tear. They didn't speak. They didn't cry. But something inside them had shifted. A door had opened. You gave them back their feelings, the girl whispered. Kale touched his cheek. It was still wet. I just remembered who I was. But the light around them began to dim. The tear on the floor stopped glowing. The girl stepped back. No, she said. It's not over. Kale looked at her, confused. I thought I passed the test. You did. But now comes the one who created the test. The sky outside the station turned black again. Not space black, deeper, heavier, like it was swallowing the stars. Something was moving. No ship, no machine, just presence. Kale felt cold crawl up his spine. Everyone stopped. Even the returned humans froze. They could feel it too. What is it? Kale asked. The girl's voice shook. The end. The one who made the rules. The one who feared the human tear. Most of all. A crack appeared in the space in front of the station, like glass breaking in the sky. Through it, a shape stepped out. It was tall, wide, formless, but with eyes. Empty, white eyes that stared straight at Kale. It spoke without sound. Words entered their minds like a cold wind. You should not have cried. Kale stepped forward. Why? What are you afraid of? The voice came again. Tears bring memory. Memory brings hope. Hope brings rebellion. You were made to obey, not feel. Kale clenched his fists. We are not machines. You were better before. Quiet, controlled, forgotten. I am not forgotten, Kale shouted. We are not forgotten. The being raised its hand. The station began to shake. Metal bent, lights shattered. The air turned heavy. The girl ran to Kale. You have to do it again. Cry? He asked. She shook her head. No, not just cry. Feel everything, all of it, all the pain, all the loss. You have to break fully. Only then can the universe rebuild. Kale's heart raced. He remembered his home, his brother, the war, the silence, the long years alone. He closed his eyes. He let it in, and it came like a flood. He screamed, not in fear, not in anger, but in sorrow. Tears poured from his eyes, not one, not two, a stream. Each tear hit the floor and turned to light. The station lit, up like a star. The being stepped back. It was afraid. Kale fell to his knees, crying without shame. The girl knelt beside him. She held his hand. All around, others began to cry too. The humans, the soldiers, even the priests. Tears fell everywhere, and the light grew. The dark being howled. It tried to run, but the light followed it, burned it, erased it until nothing was left. Silence returned. But this time, it was gentle. The girl smiled. "You've saved us." Cale wiped his face. "I didn't save anyone. I just remembered how to be human." She nodded. And that was enough. The stars came back, brighter than before. The station repaired itself. People stood together, no longer afraid, no longer lost. The countdown was gone. No more end, only a beginning. Cale looked at the sky. For the first time, he saw hope in it. He whispered, "Maybe now we can live." The girl walked beside him. "Not just live, feel, dream, love. That is what makes you different. That is why the universe feared you." He smiled, a real smile. And the universe, for the first time in forever, smiled back.